Ed, and Eddy was a show that aired on Cartoon Network from 1999 to 2009. Currently the longest-running Cartoon Network original series, it quickly became the channel's most successful show. But like any series, however, there have been things that never made it to broadcast for one reason or another. Today we're going to be looking at what could have been and observing the scraps on the cutting room floor. One of the more infamous scrapped episodes, Special Ed, was stated to be, quote, too real. When storyboard artist Raven Mimoso joined the team during later seasons, she asked them what Special Ed was. No one at AK Studios could remember, so I guess by, quote, too real, they meant it was too realistic of a plot. Jonah Howard was quoted as saying, "There's a strong feeling at AK that cartoons have slid into live-action land. That is, today's cartoons are nothing more than animated sitcoms." Boring. There were 2 episodes in Season 6 that were scrapped to eventually be replaced by the movie. The first, Luck Be an Ed Tonight, was originally going to air alongside the Season 5 finale, A Fistful of Ed. It was pushed back because they weren't happy with any of the drafts written for the script. In Season 6, it was going to air alongside A Room with an Ed, an episode where they would find out that Ed had been kicked out of his room so Sarah and Jimmy could have a playroom. These episodes were dedicated to Paul Boyd, one of the animators of the intro, who was shot to death by police for self-defense. The strangest of the scrapped episodes was going to have Eddy creating his own religion and getting donations by making himself the god. It was canned by Cartoon Network for obvious reasons. In 2007, 2 deleted scenes from the Season 4 finale Take This Ed and Shove It were shown to the public at San Diego Comic-Con. In the first scene, Eddy sees himself in the mirror and yells for Danny Antonucci, the series creator, to wake him up, before realizing he wasn't a kid after trying to bribe him with a jar of prunes. The prunes, named Aunt Bonnie's prunes, were a reference to the color designer for the show, Bonnie Reed, the same Bonnie that the shop, Bonnie's Taxidermy, is a reference to. The second scene shown takes place after Ed accidentally turns the desk to dust. In the version of the scene that aired on television, Eddy backs away before hitting himself until he becomes a kid again. In this version of the scene, however, Eddy cries in the remains of the desk, which causes Elite Canker to check on who's making the noise. It's then revealed that the Eds married the Cankers and that they had a wheelbarrow full of kids. The design of Eddy's kids were supposed to be based off the team working on Ed, Edd and Eddy. It's likely that the scene was cut due to time constraints, as the episode would have been 23 minutes long if they had left it in, and because other characters would have been added to this show. In an interview, Danny stated that they would reveal what was under Double D's hat in either a feature or the series finale.
So write the cartoon, tell them you want a feature.
It was eventually decided against because, quote, the few that would be happy with what it was wouldn't be outweighed by the millions with broken headcanons. Trust me, you don't want it, I didn't want it, nobody wants it. In the Cartoon Network game Lunchroom Rumble, it was revealed that under his hat was just hair. This game, however, was not created by AKA, but programmers at Cartoon Network, who probably weren't aware of the hat's gag. To end off the series was a feature-length film titled Ed, Edd and Eddy's Big Picture Show. The movie went through some budget issues during the 3rd act, as the budget was blown on the first 2 acts. And while there was a lot of trimming, by far the biggest loss was a scrapped campfire scene, which was meant to take place between Rolf's kidnapping and Kevin's mourning. Its purpose was to reveal who Ed and Double D were before they all became friends, in the same fashion as how Eddy is in the final scene of the movie. In Double D's old school, the other students mercilessly targeted him in dodgeball. After, quote, too many hits to the head, he finally designed a dodgeball shooting cannon to retaliate. The resulting injuries to all his classmates scarred Double D much more than any abuse he'd received to his own person. This would have been the origin of his pacifism, and why he was so crushed by the events of A Fistful of Ed. It was unrelated to what was under his hat. During Ed's story, it would be revealed that his name wasn't actually Ed at birth. His name was not decided on, but it was either going to be Bob, which Danny thought was funnier, or Stanley, which the Borders thought was much more natural. Stanley was really bad at making friends as a baby and couldn't get Eddy's attention. Ed was his desperate attempt to make the one thing he knew about Eddy, his name, a force of connection. And it actually worked because of how egotistical Eddy was. After Ed and Double D were finished with their stories, they would then look to Eddie for the next confession. Not wanting to believe his memories of Bro, Eddie would change the subject and start making up even more cool, nonsense Bro's a whiz-at stories. This is what Eddie's referring to when he says everything about his brother was a lie. Not literally everything we've heard, mainly just the outrageous stories he'd tell in the movie. It was supposed to close with Ed revealing that the only food they packed was some expired gravy in his jacket. They all would share it and experience a claymation nightmare and huddle together in their sleep for protection, which is why they wake up all over each other after Kevin's morning scene.
When you stub your toe and it hurts, you know, friends are there to